Most men believe that to arouse a woman, they need to touch her. But in reality, true female desire doesn't start on the skin. It begins much earlier in her mind. What turns her on isn't a touch, but the way a man makes her feel through his presence, his voice, his energy, and his mystery. When a man masters that level, he doesn't need physical contact to spark that mix of curiosity, intrigue, and desire that makes her think about him even when he's not around. Many men confuse attraction with desire or confidence with interest. They try hard to impress, say the right things, act kind or seductive, but without understanding what truly activates a woman's mind. And what happens is that she senses it. She notices his insecurity, his haste, or his need for approval. The attraction that could have existed fades away. However, when a man learns to master his mental and emotional frame, his body language, and his inner energy, something different happens. She starts to feel desire without knowing exactly why. That's mental seduction, and it's within reach of any man who chooses to develop his presence. If this is your first time here, my name is Celia. In this space, I teach you how to understand female psychology and build deep, ethical attraction through your behavior and mindset. I invite you to subscribe so you don't miss the content that can completely transform the way you connect with women. Stay until the end, because you'll learn how to awaken a woman's most intense desire without touching her, just through your presence, your voice, and the way you look at her. Let's begin. Before thinking about how to arouse a woman, you need to understand what truly excites her. And the answer isn't in her body, it's in her mind. A woman is first attracted by what she imagines, by the feeling a man evokes in her without ever touching her. Female desire isn't a physical switch. It's a story built in her mind, where every word, every silence, and every look create an emotional context. That's why a man who masters the art of presence and subtlety can awaken sensations in her far deeper than any rushed physical gesture. A woman's mind seeks stimulation, mystery, and security all at once. When she feels she can't fully read you, that there's something about you she can't quite figure out, she starts thinking about you more than she'd like to. That's what keeps her intrigued and fuels her imagination. If you can make a woman imagine with you, you've entered her mind, and once a man is there, no physical distance can take him out. Female desire is visual, but above all, emotional. It ignites when a woman senses that a man has something she wants to discover. So far, we've understood that the physical alone isn't enough, but the problem is that most men look for instant results. And that makes them lose the most powerful thing they have: patience. A woman feels desire for a man who can control his impulses, who doesn't rush to move forward, who enjoys the process of building tension. That calmness radiates control, and control for a woman is a form of mental arousal. Not because she wants to be controlled, but because she senses she's with someone who controls himself. Imagine for a moment a man who isn't trying to impress, he's simply present. He doesn't say much, but when he speaks, his voice is steady and calm. His gaze doesn't dart away, yet it doesn't invade. He listens, gives a faint smile, and allows moments of silence. She, without knowing why, begins to feel curious. It's in those silences that desire starts to grow, not in what he does, but in what she imagines could happen. The feminine mind responds to subtlety, not pressure. To awaken that kind of mental arousal, you need to master two things: your energy and your intention. Energy is what she feels even before you speak. Intention is what shapes your words and gestures. If you approach her with anxiety or obvious desire, she feels it and her mind closes off. But if you approach calmly, not trying to get anything, simply enjoying the moment and showing you're comfortable with yourself, her mind opens. Not because of what you say, but because of how she feels you. The secret isn't in seeking her reaction, but in provoking your own. When you feel calm, present, and purposeful, you project a different vibration. She senses it without knowing why. It's not what you tell her, it's how you make her feel. That simple, invisible difference is the line between a man who tries and a man who provokes. A man who seeks to please stays on the surface. A man who knows who he is goes deep without ever touching. And here's the most uncomfortable truth. You can't arouse a woman if you're not aroused by yourself. Desire is contagious, but it can't be faked. When you enjoy your own power, when you speak slowly, when your eyes convey calm and certainty, she doesn't get excited by what you do, but by what you radiate. The physical is merely the consequence of a mental energy that touches her from within first. Understanding this changes everything, because when you stop thinking about how to make her like you and start focusing on how to feel powerful without touching her, you become magnetic. And that quiet magnetism is the first step to awakening in her a desire she doesn't fully understand. That's true attraction, the kind that begins in her mind but is born in yours. A woman can feel attracted to many men, but she only deeply desires the one she trusts. Confidence isn't about the safety she feels in you as a person. It's about the security you project from within. When a man feels calm, he doesn't rush, compete, or boast. He doesn't need to prove anything, and that's what makes him magnetic. Masculine confidence isn't about speaking louder or looking arrogant. It's the silence that radiates certainty. It's the feeling that no matter where you are, nothing can shake you. The difference between attraction and trust is the foundation of every deep connection. Attraction is the spark, the desire that arises without reason. Trust is what allows that desire to unfold without fear. When a woman finds you attractive, her mind awakens, but if she trusts you, her body relaxes. And only when she relaxes can she truly desire. That's where most men fail. They try to awaken desire before building trust. They want her to open up when she doesn't yet feel safe. The result is that she withdraws even if there was attraction. We already know that female desire is mental, but now we need to understand that her mind doesn't open with sweet words or confident talk. It opens with consistency. She notices if your words match your actions, if your gaze holds up to the promise in your tone. If you're kind to her, but lose your temper over the smallest frustration, she senses inconsistency. If you say you don't care, but check your phone every 5 minutes waiting for her message, she senses dependence. Trust breaks in the little details that reveal anxiety. The man who inspires trust is the one with emotional control. He doesn't need to control his environment, he controls his reaction to it. If things don't go as expected, he doesn't justify or complain. He simply adapts. That stability is what a woman perceives as strength. Because while many men believe attraction comes from looks, she responds more to the feeling of being in front of someone who can hold his own world together without falling apart. In practice, this shows through your energy. When you talk to her calmly, listen more than you speak, and don't try to convince her of anything, her body lets its guard down. That serenity tells her, unconsciously, that she can relax, that she doesn't have to protect herself or guess your intentions. That's where magnetism is born. Female desire grows when she feels she can surrender to the moment without losing control, because you already have it. There's nothing more seductive than a man who doesn't seek approval. When you move from your center, without hurry or need, every word carries weight, every pause becomes interesting. She feels that your gestures aren't designed to impress, but come naturally. And that kind of authenticity can't be faked. A confident man doesn't say, "That's just who I am." He simply acts in alignment, without explaining himself. That creates a soft tension, a quiet attraction that doesn't intimidate but doesn't go unnoticed either. Confidence is what turns your presence into desire. It's not about appearing invulnerable, but knowing you can lose and still be the same. That calmness in the face of rejection, that certainty that your worth doesn't depend on her response, that's what unsettles and intrigues her. Because when a woman realizes she can't control your emotions, she starts to feel curious, and curiosity is the beginning of desire. If you can project this kind of confidence, you'll see that attraction no longer depends on effort. It happens naturally. She'll start seeking your attention, prolonging conversations, leaning in with subtle gestures. Not because you convinced her, but because you made her feel safe enough to desire you. That's the most powerful paradox. The less you need her approval, the more you awaken it. Because confidence isn't something you say, it's something you breathe. And when she feels it, desire stops being a possibility and becomes inevitable. Every woman reacts instinctively to authentic masculine energy. It's not about looks or tone of voice, it's about the inner vibration you project when you're calm, focused, and present. That energy is what allows a woman to feel she's standing before a man, not a boy seeking validation. When a man is aligned with his masculine energy, he doesn't need to impress. His very presence changes the atmosphere. She senses it without knowing why. Her body detects it before her mind does. Masculine energy shows itself through direction, clarity, and the ability to hold tension without breaking it. While some men try to please, the one who truly excites her doesn't rush. He speaks when he has something to say, looks without hesitation, and moves with purpose. He's in no hurry because he knows desire needs space. Every pause, every silence, every steady gesture triggers an unconscious response in her. Her feminine energy begins to awaken. And that polarity, your firmness against her fluidity, is the foundation of desire. In the previous points, we learned that confidence builds the ground, but here's where the fire begins. A woman doesn't desire the man who flatters her, but the one who subtly provokes her, not with crude words or clumsy hints, but with the calm of someone who masters his own impulse. Sexual tension doesn't come from physical contact, but from the distance both maintain before that contact happens. It's the invisible dance between two opposite energies, hers, receptive and sensitive, and yours, steady and contained. A clear example of that energy is the man who doesn't need to fill silence. While others rush to speak, he allows silence to say what words can't. In that moment, she starts to see him differently. She stops analyzing and begins to feel. She notices his breathing, his posture, his way of looking at her. Her rational mind quiets, and her body starts to respond. That's how masculine energy works, without touching, without asking permission, without proving anything. It simply exists. You can also sense it in humor, in how you handle disagreements, in the firmness with which you set boundaries without losing your calm. When a woman sees that a man can say no without anger or excuses, she feels respect. And respect, in a woman's mind, is the prelude to desire. Because respect comes from strength, and emotional strength is deeply erotic. That sense that she can let go without you losing control attracts her far more than any muscles or smooth words ever could. That's why it's not about pretending to be strong, it's about living it, acting with serenity, staying grounded even when things don't go as planned, walking with presence, looking with intention, speaking with calm. When you do this, your whole body communicates security. Your posture, your pauses, your rhythm all speak of a man who doesn't depend on anyone's reaction. She doesn't get turned on because you look at her. She gets turned on because, when she looks at you, she realizes you're not trying to get anything. That's the difference between the needy man and the magnetic man. The first seeks attention, the second attracts it effortlessly. The first chases, the second walks and lets himself be followed. When you develop that balanced masculine energy, she feels a mix of admiration, curiosity, and desire. It's a silent language learned only through self-control and practice. And before we continue, I'd like to invite you to take a short pause. If you're enjoying this content, I encourage you to subscribe, leave a like, and share your name and country in the comments so I can see where you're joining this community of conscious men from. I always read the comments and love hearing your experiences, because that exchange makes a huge difference and is the best support for me to keep sharing this work. If you'd like, you can also share your personal story or a lesson you've learned along the way. Sometimes what you've been through can help another man who's going through the same thing. That said, let's get back to it. Masculine energy isn't shown, it's radiated. And when you learn to hold it with calm, she feels it in her breathing, her posture, and her gaze. What awakens her desire isn't your body, but the feeling of standing before someone who can't be thrown off balance by anything. That serenity is what truly turns her on. A woman can feel attracted to you and still not desire you. She may find you interesting, charming, or physically appealing, but if she doesn't feel emotional safety, her body won't respond. Female desire doesn't arise from stimulation alone. It comes from context. She needs to feel that she's safe, that she can let go without feeling exposed. That's why attraction without trust fades, and trust without attraction turns into friendship. The combination of both is what truly ignites desire. Attraction is triggered when she senses value, but desire awakens when she senses stability. If she only sees your charm, she might enjoy your company, but if she feels your balance, she'll think of you even when you're not around. Security isn't something you express by saying how trustworthy you are. It's something you show through consistency. If you say one thing and do another, her mind closes. But if your words, gestures, and boundaries align, her body reacts before she even realizes it. That's what separates a man who is merely liked from a man who leaves a mark. After understanding how masculine energy creates tension, now we need to understand how that tension becomes pleasure in her mind. Desire appears when a woman feels she can surrender to the experience without losing her inner control. And that only happens if you are in control of yours. When your presence is calm, your gaze steady, and your body language consistent, she senses there's no risk. Then she allows herself to feel. Desire doesn't come from fear or impulse. It comes from the inner permission to let go in the moment. That's why arousing her without touching isn't manipulation or mind games. It's about creating the space where she can desire freely, without fear. A space where every word, every gesture, and every silence build trust. You don't need to tell her you understand her. It's enough to listen without judgment. You don't need to say you want her. It's enough for her to sense it in your energy, in how you look at her, and then calmly look away, leaving her mind to imagine what you didn't say. What turns her on isn't what you do, but what you hold back. That restraint is one of the purest forms of masculine security. A man who knows when to stop radiates more strength than one who rushes in without awareness. A woman is turned on when she feels that you can hold tension without breaking, that you're not ruled by impulse. That calmness makes her trust you and transforms attraction into desire. Because when energy doesn't spill over, it focuses. And that focus creates an invisible field between you that's impossible to ignore. Security also has an emotional side. She notices how you react to the unexpected. If something goes wrong and you keep your sense of humor, if you handle rejection without resentment, if your body language stays relaxed, you're communicating stability. And stability is one of the greatest aphrodisiacs for a woman. She doesn't want a perfect man. She wants to feel that your energy won't throw hers off balance. When she senses that, her mind and body align, and that's when real desire begins. Understanding the difference between attraction, trust, and desire changes everything about your approach. You stop trying to impress and start focusing on inspiring safety. You no longer chase quick reactions. You create an atmosphere where a woman feels free to feel. It's a subtler kind of work, but infinitely more powerful, because while most men aim for impact, the true seducer creates an effect, and that effect lasts, even after you say goodbye. When you learn to combine magnetism with stability, your presence becomes addictive. She starts to associate you with calm, with pleasure, with a sense of relief. She thinks of you not because you chased her, but because her body remembers how she felt when she was with you. That's how deep desire is created, not through sudden moves or direct words, but through the perfect harmony between tension and safety. That's the balance that ignites her mind and her body at the same time.